What happens when one of Hollywood's most respected actresses squares off against daytime television's most outspoken host? When a single interview question sparks a chain reaction that turns casual banter into open confrontation. Today we're breaking down the clash that had viewers across America calling friends mid-broadcast the explosive showdown between Charlize Theron and Joy Behar. A moment that ended in one of the most dramatic walk-offs in daytime TV history. The morning began like any other. The View's panel settled into their seats, the studio buzzing with anticipation. Charlize Theron was the marquee guest, there to promote her latest film. No one suspected that, within 20 minutes, the tone would shift from light-hearted conversation to something resembling a courtroom battle. At first, it seemed routine. Joy Behar, known for her sharp wit and bold opinions, opened warmly. "Joy, Charlize, it's wonderful to have you back. You look absolutely stunning." Charlize, smiling politely. "Thank you, Joy. It's always interesting being here." That word, interesting, carried an edge that Joy didn't miss. Still, she pressed on with questions about the film and its heavy themes of social justice and activism. "Joy, this character you play, she's complex, deeply engaged in activism. What drew you to her?" Charlize, sitting taller. "She forced me to ask how we use our platforms, how we speak truth to power, and what happens when people with influence choose silence instead of action." The panel exchanged wary glances. There was weight behind Charlize's words. Pointed, intentional. Joy leaned forward, never one to sidestep controversy. "Joy, I imagine you've seen plenty of people stay silent in this business. Probably just as many who spoke up." Charlize, coolly. "I've seen both. I've also seen people speak carelessly, using their platform irresponsibly, spreading misinformation, or trivializing serious issues just for attention." The temperature in the room shifted. The audience sensed it too. This was no longer casual chatter. Joy, smiling tightly. "Well, most of us try to use our platforms responsibly. Of course, responsibility means different things to different people." Charlize, "True. Some think it means staying safe and avoiding hard truths. Others think it means doing the research before opening their mouths." The crew zoomed in. Co-hosts glanced nervously between the two women. Joy, voice rising. "Are you suggesting that some of us don't do our research?" Charlize, head tilted, unflinching. "I'm not suggesting anything. I'm saying that in an era where misinformation moves faster than facts, people with platforms have a duty to be accurate, not just loud." Joy, eyebrows shooting up. "Loud? Are you calling me loud?" Charlize, "I'm calling out a pattern where opinion gets dressed up as fact, where complex issues are reduced to sound bites, where the goal seems to be heat instead of light." The silence in the studio was deafening. Joy, snapping back. "Maybe you're confusing passion with irresponsibility. Some of us aren't afraid to take a stand, even when it's unpopular." Charlize, leaning back, faint smile. "And some of us confuse taking a stand with simply taking up space. There's a difference between being passionate and being performative, Joy." The word performative landed like a grenade. Joy's co-hosts shifted in their seats, desperate to intervene. Joy, bristling, "Performative? I've been fighting for progressive causes since before you were even acting." Charlize, "Fighting for them, or fighting about them? Because from where I sit, it looks like you spend more time arguing with allies than addressing the real problems." Joy, half rising from her chair, voice booming. "How dare you lecture me about fighting for causes? Do you know what I've sacrificed for my beliefs?" Charlize, calm, steady. "I'm not questioning your sacrifices, Joy. I'm questioning your methods. When every disagreement becomes a shouting match, When you label anyone who challenges you as an enemy, you're not building bridges. You're burning them. Joy, snapping. Maybe some bridges deserve to be burned. Maybe some views are so wrong they don't deserve respect. Charlize, voice like steel. And who decides that, Joy? You, based on what authority? Charlize, leaning forward, voice like ice. Based on what expertise, Joy? Beyond your ability to talk over people? The studio was so silent you could hear the faint hum of the cameras. Joy's face was flushed, her hands gripping the table so tightly, her knuckles whitened. Joy, repeating, her voice cracking. Talk over people? I give people a platform. I ask the questions others are too afraid to ask. Charlize didn't flinch. If anything, there was something pitying in her expression. Charlize, do you though? Or do you ask leading questions designed to get the answers you want? There's a difference between journalism and entertainment. Why? Standing abruptly, her chair rolling back. Entertainment? You think what I do is just entertainment? Charlize, even, matter of fact. I think what you do is create content. Whether that content educates or just feeds outrage, that's debatable. Whoopi Goldberg finally tried to intervene. Whoopi, ladies, maybe we should just... Joy, cutting her off, eyes locked on Charlize. No, I want to hear this. I want to hear how someone who makes millions playing pretend thinks she can lecture me about substance. For the first time, Charlize's composure flickered, a flash of steel in her eyes. Charlize, low, dangerous, playing pretend? That's what you think acting is? Joy, snapping, isn't it? You memorize lines someone else wrote. You pretend to be someone else. You collect a paycheck. And then you move on to the next role. At least I deal with real issues, real people, every single day. Charlize's voice dropped to a whisper, and somehow it was more chilling than if she had shouted. Charlize, real issues? You mean like the time you mocked climate activists on this very stage? Or when you told people worried about media bias to just get over it? Joy's mouth fell open. Joy, I never said that. Charlize, you absolutely did. 3 weeks ago, you called environmental protesters professional complainers. You dismissed legitimate concerns about representation as people being too sensitive. I watched it myself. Joy, stammering, that's not what I meant. Charlize, pressing, her voice now steady and unrelenting. But it's what you said, and that's the problem, Joy. You don't think about the impact. You don't consider that people listen to you, that your words carry weight. The panelists exchanged desperate looks, signaling frantically to producers to cut to commercial. But Joy refused to yield. Joy, voice breaking. Don't you dare try to make me the villain. At least I'm honest about my opinions. At least I don't hide behind some fake persona. Charlize laughed, but there was no humor in it. Charlize, fake persona? Joy, your whole brand is being the tell-it-like-it-is woman. But the truth is, you only tell it like you see it. And your vision is painfully narrow. Joy, shrieking now. Narrow? I've been fighting for women, for minorities, for the working class since you were still hustling for auditions. Charlize, calmly cutting in, talking about them, Joy, not fighting for them. There's a difference between advocacy and commentary. When was the last time you did something beyond sitting at this table and arguing? The words landed like a blow. Joy's face went pale, then red again. Joy, spitting the words, how dare you question my commitment? Charlize, quiet, steady. I'm not questioning your commitment. I'm questioning your methods. Do you actually want to solve problems? Or just stay angry about them? Joy sputtered, but Charlize pressed on. Charlize, from where I sit, you've built a career out of manufactured outrage. You reduce complex issues to sound bites, and then act surprised when nothing changes. Sunny Hostin tried to intervene. Sunny, Charlize, maybe this is getting a little off track. Charlize, turning briefly toward her, softer. Is it? Because maybe this is exactly the conversation we need to have. Stop pretending everything's fine just because it gets ratings. Joy, cutting in, trembling with fury. What we're trying to have here is a civilized conversation, something you clearly don't understand. Charlize turned back, and the temperature in the studio seemed to drop 10 degrees. Charlize. Civilized? Let's talk civilized. Like the time you interrupted a domestic violence survivor mid-sentence because you didn't like her politics. Or the countless guests you've made feel unwelcome simply because they didn't share your worldview. Joy, hands trembling, voice thin. That never happened. Charlize, firmly. It did, many times. And the fact you don't even remember proves exactly how little you think about your impact. Joy, whispering now. You're lying. Charlize, cold. I'm not lying. Joy, I'm just not willing to pretend anymore that what happens on this show is harmless, because it isn't. The silence was suffocating. Joy stared at Charlize with a mix of rage and dawning recognition. The other hosts looked ready to sink through their chairs. Joy, finally, voice taut. You know what? Maybe you should stick to your movie sets, where everyone has to pretend you're wonderful because you're the star. This, gestures around the table, this is the real world, where real people deal with real consequences. Charlize rose slowly, deliberately. Charlize, you're right, Joy. This is the real world. And in the real world, when someone behaves inappropriately, long enough, eventually, someone calls them out. Joy shot to her feet, her chair crashing backward into the wall. Joy, shouting, called out? You think you can come on my show, sit at my table and judge me? Charlize, raising an eyebrow, calm as stone. Your show. Last I checked, it was called The View, not the Joy Behar show. Maybe that's the problem. You've forgotten this is supposed to be a conversation, not a monologue. The other hosts were practically begging the control room to cut the feed, but the cameras kept rolling. This was live TV history in the making. Joy voice breaking into a scream. Don't you lecture me about conversation. Joy, spitting the words. I've been having conversations on television since before you knew what a camera was. Charlize. Quiet, lethal, having conversations, or dominating them. There's a difference between talking with people and talking at them. Joy's hands balled into fists at her sides. Joy, you privileged little princess. You have no idea what it's like to fight for anything real. You live in your Hollywood bubble, surrounded by people who tell you how amazing you are, and you think that gives you the right to judge the rest of us. For the first time, real anger flashed across Charlize's face. Charlize? Privileged? You want to talk about privilege? Joy, you've spent years using this platform to tear down other women, to stoke division, not build unity. And you call me privileged? Joy, voice rising to a shriek. I'm fighting for progress while you're worried about your image and your brand deals. Charlize laughs, but it's a cold sound. My brand deals? Joy, I've donated more to actual causes this year than you've probably given in a decade, and I don't announce it for applause. The accusation hung in the air. Joy's face shifted through colors as she tried to process it. Joy, dangerously low. Are you saying I only care about money? Charlize. I'm saying you care about being seen. There's a difference between doing the work and performing the work for an audience. Someone, Sarah, tried to steer them back to the film. Sarah. Maybe we could... Joy, without looking away. No, I want to finish this. She stepped closer. The space between them felt charged. Joy, you think I don't care about real issues? You sanctimonious. Charlize, voice flat, precise. Careful, Joy. The cameras are still rolling. Joy, I don't care about the cameras, she screamed, losing control. You sit in your designer clothes and judge people who actually get their hands dirty. Charlize, you sit behind a desk and yell. That's not getting your hands dirty. That's getting your voice. The insult landed like a physical blow. A hush fell over the studio. Producers, crew, audience. Everyone held their breath. Charlize's hand moved with the calm efficiency of someone who knew how to command a room. She unclipped her microphone. Charlize, coldly, you know what, Joy? You're right. I read lines other people write. But when I speak them, I mean them. I don't let whatever falls out of my mouth become someone else's problem. Joy stepped around the table, face inches from Charlize's. For a long second, there was nothing but the rhythm of their breathing. Joy, whispering then louder, "Get out!" Charlize, soft, "Excuse me?" Joy, "Get out, get off my show, get away from my table." Charlize looked past her, at the other hosts, at the audience, then back to Joy. The pity in her eyes was unmistakable. Charlize, you don't have to listen, but maybe you should want to. She turned, heels clicking on the studio floor, each step a small detonator in the stunned silence. The clicks echoed like gunshots. Joy lunged. Too late. Charlize reached the stage exit, shoulders squared, and walked out while the cameras continued to roll. The studio didn't explode into chaos so much as collapse into stunned noise, whispered expletives, frantic hand gestures to the control room, the distant sound of a director calling "cut" that never quite reached the live feed in time. Joy stood with a look that was half rage, half the dawning recognition of being bested in public. For the first time, she was speechless. The credits crawled as producers scrambled. Off mic, co-hosts exchanged helpless looks. Whoopi hovered to steady Joy while others whispered damage control. In the control room, someone finally hit the switch. The screen went black. Outside the studio, the audience murmured and then erupted. Phones lit up. People were already calling friends. On social feeds, the clip would be everywhere by morning. An argument turned crucible, a celebrity walk-off, and a late-day talk show that would not feel the same again. You just never realized it. Joy snapping, "What is that supposed to mean?" She took a few steps after her. Now Charlize did turn. Her face was calm, almost serene. Charlize, it means this conversation, this entire dynamic you've built here, represents everything broken about public discourse today. You don't want to discuss anything, Joy. You want to perform outrage for an audience. Joy, that's not true, she protested, but her voice cracked with doubt. Charlize, softly, isn't it? Think. When was the last time you changed your mind on this show? When was the last time you admitted you were wrong? Or learned something new instead of just confirming what you already believe? Joy opened and closed her mouth like a fish pulled from water. The questions landed where anger couldn't reach. Whoopi, trying to intervene. Charlize, I think we all get passionate about what we care about. Charlize inclined her head respectfully. Charlize, passion is wonderful, Whoopi, but passion without wisdom, that's just noise, and noise doesn't solve problems. It only makes more of them. Her eyes returned to Joy, who stood frozen at the center of the set. Charlize, Joy, you have a platform millions of people watch every day. You could use it to create real understanding. Instead, you use it to score points, to win arguments that don't even have winners. Joy, weakly, I do make a difference, Charlize. Gently, do you? Or do you just make noise? Because I've watched you take urgent issues and turn them into entertainment. Reduce complex problems into slogans. Treat serious topics like games to be won, instead of challenges to be solved. The cameras caught every flicker of expression, every tremor in Joy's face, her co-hosts stared at the floor, unwilling to come to her rescue. Joy, finally whispering, "You don't understand the pressure I'm under. To always have an opinion. To always be on." For the first time, Charlize's expression softened. "Charlize, you're right. I don't understand that pressure. But Joy, nobody is forcing you to have an opinion on everything. You could choose to say, 'I don't know.' You could choose to listen more and talk less." Joy, whispering, "That's not who I am." Charlize, sadly, "No, it's who you've become. But it doesn't have to be who you stay." She turned toward the exit, pausing once more. "Charlize, you asked what I know about fighting for what's right. Here's what I know. Real change doesn't happen in TV studios. It happens in communities, in voting booths, in conversations where people disagree, but still respect each other enough to listen. It happens when people stop performing their beliefs and start living them." Joy's tears spilled, raw with rage and humiliation. "Joy, you think you're so much better than me." Charlize, shaking her head, "No, I don't think I'm better, Joy. I think I'm different, and maybe it's that difference you can't handle." She walked to the exit, then turned back one final time. "Charlize, ladies, thank you for having me. Joy, I hope someday you realize that being right isn't the same thing as being helpful." And with that, Charlize Theron walked off the view set, leaving behind silence so heavy it felt like gravity itself. Joy stood rooted in place, mascara streaking her cheeks, her co-hosts frozen in uneasy quiet. The cameras stayed live, capturing her collapse, until finally Whoopi cleared her throat and murmured, "Whoopi, we'll be right back after this commercial break." But everyone watching knew the truth. No commercial break could fix what just happened. This wasn't a segment. This wasn't even a fight. It was a breaking point. The moment television stopped being entertainment and turned into a reckoning. As the credits rolled and the audience filed out in stunned silence, one thing was clear. This wasn't just a celebrity walk-off. It was a watershed moment, a clash between noise and meaning, ego and responsibility. And it left everyone asking, what really caused the explosion? Was Charlize right to confront Joy? Or did she cross a line? Subscribe for more unforgettable stories like this one. And tell me in the comments, what do you think was the real breaking point that turned a simple interview into one of the most unforgettable moments in live television history?